Can I call you Danny, or is that just for people you don't like?
Nah, you can call me Danny. Most people call me Danny.
Just make it Danny. All right, welcome back to Late Night with Dr. Paul. I'm here today with Daniel McGuire.
That's the one.
Perfect. We're moving along beautifully. We're on the outskirts of town in Toronto, and my crack research team tells me you are a writer and director. Is that true?
Yeah.
Beautiful. I understand you started your film career working on a series of shorts while living in Glasgow.
Yeah.
The Scottish Glasgow.
That's the one.
Yeah. Glasgow, Nova Scotia, or other assorted Glasgows around the world.
Mm-hmm. That's the one.
How did you make that happen? How did you end up there?
My mom had passed away, and I went to live with my brother. But when I saw Boogie Nights in Magnolia over the course of 2 weekends, I kind of made the decision.
Was that like a weird double feature, or
it was. I mean, Magnolia had just come out, and Boogie Nights had been out for a couple of years. When I saw those two films, I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson became just what John Carpenter had been since I was young, and just changed everything for me. So I kind of spent the next few years just ripping them off as much as I could, and kind of just in short films, but also kind of going to the root source of what made them good, and kind of learning not just to kind of my rip-off attempts were nothing.
That's just flattery.
Yeah, you know, and it was just like, but to actually understanding, to acknowledge what they were doing or what they were trying to do in their own way, kind of it registered with me, and I'm like, I can kind of take this, what they're kind of doing, and run with this in my own way.
And what brought you back to Canada?
It was just I felt there was more opportunity here. I was making films up until that point with friends. I wasn't casting actors. I attended a film program, which was kind of an immersion program for 10 months, which was great. I learned a lot of being on set, how to kind of, call certain shots, and how to kind of, just kind of set etiquette to a degree.
An early film of yours, Passengers, was screened at the New York International Film Festival, was it?
Yeah, New York International Film Festival, yeah. Yeah.
How did that go? Did you go to New York for the screening, or?
I did. It was a great kind of.
Did you find poutine there?
It was not of the caliber up here, no. But it was that was a good experience because it was an amazing experience. It kind of validated my choice to go back there because it had happened within the first 3 months. I made 6 films in Scotland. I mean, looking back, I mean they were interesting if the right people were watching, But when I submitted to that festival, it was within 5 months I heard back from them, and that's kind of a big thing. It's like all of a sudden you're on a bus by yourself going to the biggest city in the world to promote your film. And I was kind of nervous when I got there. I went and saw, my film was playing on Saturday, I arrived on the Friday, and I went to the first screening, and the guy who had showed up to this screening was just with his family, and it was his film. And nobody else was there, and I was just like, I didn't come to New York to sit in the theater by myself and watch my film, so you kind of had to hit the pavement. I went down with a bunch of flyers, and I just kind of was out promoting it, and I think it was about 60 or 70 people showed up, which was cool.
How many of those, percentage-wise, would you classify as groupies?
You got me.
All right, next question. Your subsequent film, or one of them, Psychopath, I understand has a very impressive 3 million plus views on YouTube.
Yeah,
so, I think I speak with everybody watching at home when I say, how do I get that?
I couldn't even give you an answer.
I mean, I'm very proud of the dozens of people that watch this. But.
Yeah, I couldn't give you an answer on that. I remember when I posted it for the first 2 weeks, I think about 300 people watched. And then it was Halloween. And on Halloween night, for some reason, I think it was 350,000 people tuned in that night. Mm-hmm. And that, I guess, just kind of tuned it viral in some regard. And then it was just amazing because I'm getting responses from people in China and Australia and New Zealand and just everywhere. And it was amazing. But I couldn't tell you how it happened at all. No idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's very impressive. Tell me about the movie. How was it shot? What sort of budget did you have? What's it about?
Every single thing that I did on that film, I did wrong, which I think is very important. You have to kind of get into this to make mistakes because your heart's going to get broken either way. And if you're going to fuck it up, do it boldly. So it was when I started to kind of hold on to some of those shots.
Fuck it brilliantly, you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it was...
Any knob can fuck up a little bit.
Yeah, it's just plant your flag, be bold, just
check out some of my old episodes.
That's it, right? You kind of learn. You figure it out. You kind of, and you find ways that, well, you know what? I had nothing in this particular moment, but it actually still kind of worked. And let's play off of that, and let's build off of that.
You've lectured, I understand, on the forgotten art of the film score. What has been forgotten?
It's a visual medium. Motion pictures. Motion's been missing from that for a long time with a lot of people. A lot of people get caught up in photographing people talking. A lot of what has been forgotten is that it's supposed to trigger certain kind of emotional responses as opposed to have information just projected on you. And that is kind of the fallback for a lot of modern storytellers, is that I'm going to tell you the story, but I can have that conversation with anybody on the street. In order to engage me, in order to get into my head, the visual has to come to life. There has to be something alive in the screen that kind of captivates me and takes me to another level. Otherwise, it's a regular experience, and cinema's supposed to be, immaculate reality. It's supposed to be an elevation.
Sure. And just like listening to your favorite band, your favorite composer, whatever.
But that's actually true. My favorite films, they kind of leave impressions like songs. Like if I listen to like an old Dylan song or a Leonard Cohen song, it's almost kind of like, it almost has a visual to it because I've painted it in my head.
Mm-hmm. It elicits emotion.
Yeah.
And that, I assume, is what you're going for with your
visual stimulation,
with your films.
Yeah.
And to tie that in effectively, to have the audio as well as the visual.
Sure. Yeah. It has to have a visual rhythm. It's a dance for the eyes, necessarily.
But I think when you put the two together effectively, they become greater than the sum of the parts.
And the marriage between the two, if you have the photographic sensibility and the ear for it, when those two mediums marry, there's nothing like it.
Do you do any of your own scores, or you just influence
that was one thing
composers?
My older brother's the musician in the family. I kind of at some point was like, what if I had taken it up? Like, because John Carpenter did all his own scores, and I was but I just kind of fell in love with the writing process and the creative process. But I realized that one of my favorite parts of the process is the mystery about the sound, and when it's revealed to me, usually in the cutting room or in the writing process, that's kind of a sacred moment because it becomes authentic in a way that even I didn't know, because I know the scripts like so well, but it has to kind of come to life on a new level, on a finalized cinematic kind of film level, and that's a discovery that I kind of cherish. So when I find the right piece of music, it's like, it's magic for me, because I have to re-stimulate myself.
How challenging is it for you to forget what you know? By that I mean, to your point, you are involved intimately with your script, with the film you're making. You know what you're trying to achieve and what's going on. People that are watching it for the first time don't know that, and they don't have that depth and that background. Is it hard to sort of remove yourself and put yourself, in their objective position? And
for me, I mean, it's check the ego at the door. Right? Everyone kind of knows the nature of what we're going for, but not being ignorant to try and dictate where a certain magic that is born in that moment.
So you know your film before you start shooting it.
Yeah, absolutely. I will harness that. I'll work with that. And you gotta eliminate ego from that equation. Otherwise, you're just manufacturing. You're manufacturing.
If you ever have any issues making sure you're hitting your CanCon targets, have you thought about doing the forgotten art of the hockey score?
What's the forgotten art of the hockey score?
Well, forgotten art of the score, film score.
Oh yeah.
Hockey score. Hockey score.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Never mind. You're free to leave.
I lived in Scotland. My hockey thing is
bad jokes. Your last film was Aim High.
I just remember knowing that I had kind of a certain moment. It was suddenly there, and you just kind of all of a sudden you're in the middle of shooting, and you're like, where the fuck did this all start? But you go with it again. It's one of those things that just something reveals itself to you. It's an instinct. You feel it, and you go with it. And if it's truthful, you believe it.
Don't fight the inspiration.
True story.
I guess you got quite creative in employing some police officers in the movie.
Yeah.
You a fan of Bowfinger?
You know what? I have not seen Bowfinger. I love Eddie Murphy, but that's one of his movies I have not seen.
It's brilliant, and it's about a struggling filmmaker, Steve Martin, who on the incredibly cheap manages to pull off a big picture. Now in his case, what he's doing is he's following around Eddie Murphy, who is a big film star, and having actors run at him and throw lines at him and making his reactions work for the script.
Yeah.
And pretending he's in the movie when he doesn't know he is.
There you go.
Anyway,
That
what
seems
was I
amazing.
saying? So how did you get the police to be involved in the movie when they actually weren't?
You just get creative in those things. They're involved in sound. I mean, you kind of realize how important sound becomes in film, right? Because we create the impression of it when really the sound of dread in the build-up of that scene creates the impression that there's like everything's honing in on this situation. When really it's just, it's good editing.
I would think it's more authentic in a lot of ways when you have to be creative and you can't just throw money at a scene and make everything just so, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's like it just forces you to kind of stand up to it in a certain way. So it's like you got to kind of set that tone for yourself.
Well, I honestly haven't seen it yet. I look forward to
let me know what you think.
enjoying the movie and let me know when it comes out in beta.
Mm-hmm.
Your next project, can you talk about that, or is that sort of top secret right now? If you need a hand with the script, let me know. I know dozens of things.
Okay. What I will say about it, it's kind of, I grew up like a fan of horror films. So I was lucky enough, literally I was 5 years old when I saw Halloween. I fell in love with horror films as a result of that. And not as kind of some crazy thing, like they were like something to be feared. It was, I think horror films are the most empowering films. They're the ones where the craziest situation is thrust upon somebody and it forces them to have to
It
overcome
can be
it.
very visceral, can't it?
Yeah.
And what are your top 3 favorite horror films?
It changes every day. Today I'll go with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Tobe Hooper's original. Carpenter's Halloween, and it always goes back between The Exorcist and The Shining, doesn't it?
I was going to say Shining. Can't go
I
wrong there.
Every time I go with The Shining, it's like
I've never understood why Stephen King never liked the movie.
King writes differently. The Shining is a cold film. Kubrick he kind of walks you out into the middle of hell and just fucking leaves you there. And it's kind of like, where do I go? And then you know where to go, but the parking lot, into your car, back to your house.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
You're going to walk you out to the middle of
He leaves you in a maze.
The frozen maze.
Yeah, and that's why it's literally psychologically one of the best. The best horror films follow you in the parking lot, they follow you home, into your bedroom, into your dreams, they stay with you. But they also kind of like make you ask a lot of crazy questions, which is good in the end, I think.
All right, and that's a wonderful segue. We're going to go on to crazy questions from the fans at home.
So,
This is from Tom in Hawaii.
hi Tom in Hawaii.
I know Tom.
I don't know.
Don't get within 50 yards of Tom.
Okay.
Back in the day, budding filmmakers like Spielberg made early films on an 8mm camera. Now you can do so much more on your phone. Is easy access to that positive, or is it almost too easy? Should you have to work a little harder?
It's too easy.
My feeling is, lazy bastard filmmakers.
Yeah, and learn your craft. There's, film school exists on YouTube now. You can look at every film that's ever been made and you can find something about the craft in which that was developed. And I would say learn your craft. There's a lot of people who aren't indulging in that. Listen, cinema is a real thing. It's a level up. And it's one of those things when you tap into it, it's like, oh, I get it. And this kind of resonates with me on a spiritual level.
Sarah in Montreal wants to know, what are your goals as a filmmaker? What do you hope to be able to look back on as your canon when you finally retire?
I just remember a point where individuals were entrusted to tell stories, and those stories came from that individual. Whereas films are made by committees right now, and we don't necessarily, the truth just seems like the furthest thing from what we're getting. We're getting kind of, it's
committees and focus groups.
Yeah, it's what McDonald's is to fine cuisine. It doesn't really, it's easy to consume, but it doesn't have any longevity. I wish...
So you want to make filet mignon?
Yeah. I'm in this to make fucking classics, and I know I can do it. I have to have that belief in many regards.
You do?
Yeah.
If you approach it thinking, yeah, I'm okay.
I want to make classics.
And finally, Meg in Calgary wants to know, Dr. Paul, this one's for me, any chance we'll see you in one of Daniel's movies someday? I think I've missed my window acting one of your movies, but if you ever come out with Psycho 2 Happy Hour, then I'm your guy. I can find a place in there, I'm sure.
You never know. You got a cool kind of vibe around you, so maybe.
All right, well, I think we're done. Thanks for joining us tonight, Danny.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate that. Please visit risingfilms.ca to get updates on Daniel's films and other adventures. Thanks for watching. Thanks to our sponsors, Blackground Media, Rich Graphics, and the Hollywood Foreign Press. Hopefully they're paying attention to this.
You should be.
And join us next time on Late Night with Dr. Paul Television.